I just give everyone a chance to get in. Oh, Mark got me a cup of tea. Was it a big light, oh darling? A bit bright, setting me vertigo off. There we go, that's better. Right, there we are. Thank you for joining me tonight, guys. We've just had a premiere as normal. I'm just covering myself up so I can't see it. I can see the chat. Yeah, doing well tonight. Mark's over there with Roy, chilling out, watching a movie. Oh.
This is what happens when your kids get to the hello friend.
Sorry, YouTube adverts. 1 second, there we go. Don't know how I did that. I shouldn't do that. There shouldn't be any adverts on my lives, and YouTube keep putting them on there. Right, tonight we were talking about, if you remember, there was a gentleman who was sitting in his car at the Borth Road Bridge, which is in Fife. So for anybody who's not sure on Scotland, it's on the north-east coast of Scotland. And there are 3 bridges, if I remember rightly, one of them being a train bridge. And this gentleman had lost his friend there about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, something like that. And he would go up there and reflect, as people do. And it was doing that when he was there. And he said, other than the feeling of grief, which obviously comes over you when you are thinking about somebody, and you're in that place where they passed away, another feeling came over him, like an intense feeling of existential dread, I think were his words, how he worded it. And in his rearview mirror, he could see some orange red eyes up on the embankment where the trees were. And he said the embankment was on an incline like there. So he's obviously terrified, thinks, he said, I don't know how I did it, but I got out of the car to get a really good look. And with my own eyes, I couldn't see it. Just couldn't see it. So he got in the car and he drove away as quickly as he could, which, you know, is understandable, isn't it, at the time? So it's taken him a really long time to, I think, come to terms with it, and that's normal. He said to me that he's 6'4". He's a really, really big Scottish man. And he's never been so frightened in his life. And I hear that more than people realise. I put him in touch with Mark, one of my good friends, because he's been through a similar situation. So they've been able to have a chat backwards and forwards. Just trying to see if Mark's in the chat tonight. I don't think he's made it in. But he has a very hard job. And I've just spoken to him in Messenger. And I know that the conversation between them is going really, really well. A number of people have asked me, do I think it's the illumination that is setting off the eye shine? And in most of the accounts I take, there is no actual illumination. So for all he's sat in his car, it's night time, and he sat in a dark area. There was nothing actually shining at the tree that had the eyes in. And he said himself, it was so dark in there, he couldn't tell if it was something standing up to about 8 feet tall, or it was something actually up in the tree looking at him. And I took a report in Devon about 2 years ago, so around about a similar time, and it was a young lady who'd moved into an old stone cottage. It was incredibly old. I think some parts of it were like 15th century, 16th century. And she sent me a video of the cat, which was the first reason she'd got in touch with me. And the cat was clearly interacting with somebody, more than one person in the room, that was invisible to the eye. And there was another occasion where a family member was filming the cat, you know, like you do, your pet, and a white mist, very clear to see, goes right across the camera in front of her. So we were talking about the fact that she's from that area, so she would tune into things when she was possibly relaxed, but it's moving day, it's probably the least relaxed you ever are, isn't it? But the little cat sat there and looked at something that was walking up and down in front of the fireplace. It was a beautiful old fireplace. And basically watched this person leave the room, and then another person kind of patted it on the head, and you seen it respond, and then it followed them out of the room kind of thing. But the next time she got in touch with me was because she'd been in the garden. It was night time. Oh, Kiss, thank you very much. That's really kind of you. It was night time, and she said she saw something in the darkness where the hedge is move quickly, and if it hadn't have moved, she wouldn't have noticed it. and it shot up the tree. And she said, I don't know if it stood up to about 8 feet tall, so same as the witness at the Porth Road Bridge, or it went up the tree and was looking at me from the tree, kind of thing. And obviously that was quite startling because that was in her garden, and she lives in quite a rural area. Not too far away in Stroud, if I remember rightly. I'm going to pull it up on my map so I can give Mike the exact area. Just give me a second because I don't want to lose my chat. There we go. I'll just get my map up for you. Because there are 3 reports that span from the east coast to the west coast of Devon there. And I think that's quite important. That could be something that's used in the same area, you know. We do know that the top at Cornwall and the top where Woody Bay is, so like Valley of the Doon, Linton area, that kind of area, all of the canine reports there happen in January, February of the year. Not every year, obviously, but the 3 reports that have happened in the area have happened at that time of year. And that made me wonder if that was a seasonal pattern of some kind. Let me just put Stroud in because I know it was near to Stroud. There we go. So the exact area, Mike, is just off the estuary, and we're between Whitminster and Painswick and Rushcombe. So in the fields, in that kind of area. So above Stroud, only about 2 kilometres above Stroud. Hardwick, the triangle is made up of like Stonehouse, Whitminster, Hardwick, in that area. And there's quite a number of large cat sightings in that area as well. And a couple of those accounts mention a creature with like eye shine, but this is when a car's been moving. So in this instance, we do have an illumination. We have the car lights, and different lights shining at eyes can give you a different light coming back. So that's quite normal. So if you're scanning this field, you're lamping, you've got this big bright light, you are hoping to pick up some eye shine of an animal. The cases that we're interested in is where the person is stood in the garden and they suddenly see eye shine. Why did that creature not just keep its eyes closed? And why move? Why not just stay completely still in the darkness and not be seen? So, was it not accidental? Was it meant to be seen? I don't know. I can't answer that. But it's one of the things, the same with the gentleman at the Porth Road Bridge. If it had kept its eyes closed, he wouldn't have seen it. So, was he supposed to see it? And if so, why? I know for Mark won't mind me sharing with you that his creature had, I'm sure he said like an orange-ish colour to its eyes, a yellowy orange colour, and that comes off often. There's a case in Winter Hill close to me, and regular listeners will already know this, but I'll give it a quick scan for the people who don't. You've got 2 gentlemen and they're going up on the moor. So Winter Hill's about 1,000 feet in elevation. Quite rocky and outcroppy, small clustered of woodlands, but more moorland than anything else. So lots of sheep grazing up there and things like that. And these 2 men, you get people go up to the up on the pike at night for lots of different reasons. When me and Mark go, we go to Skywatch, or we just go and have a cup of coffee in the car. And a lot of people with Land Rovers go up really late, don't they? Yeah. And they'll go right to the top as far as they can go because they're in the Lanner. So you do get some vehicles out there, which is quite normal. So these 2 guys are out there and they're walking, and it's really, really dark. So without an head torch, you can't really see much. And they basically step onto the carcass of a sheep. And this carcass had been ripped in 2 from its breastbone, which is really unusual. It wouldn't be something a poacher would do. A cat would take it around the neck. A dog would go at its flanks, wouldn't it, Mark, at its legs, and keep nipping to take it down. No. But this was ripped in 2, and they said there was still steam coming off the carcass. And then, to their horror, they see something with yellowish red eyes that's looking at them from over the stone wall. So up there you've got, if you can imagine, like, does anybody remember the stone lamb in American Werewolf in London? Well, it's like that. So it's like moorland like that, and then you've got these old granite farmhouses that are gone. So you've just got the remnants of them every now and again, and the stone walls. Farming still happens there, so you still got a lot of intact walls, don't get me wrong, but some of them have gone to wreck and ruin. It's a beautiful place, but at night, you can't see your hand in front of your face. And those two guys said that they had, right, what do you call your gun, like a 22, what is it? Rifle?
Yeah.
They're like air rifles, which is quite normal up there for people. And they said he turned it round. He knew it would be of no use whatsoever. And he turned it round because he figured that if it came at him, he'd be better off using it as a club. And then this thing started to growl and growled at them and howled the entire way back to the car. Almost, they couldn't see it, but it knew where they were. I don't think we're dealing with a Bigfoot here, or the woodwose, or something like that. I really don't. I think we're edging on the side of either canine or something in that nature is the only way I can put it. I can't get a word to come into my head what I mean. I'm not thinking dogman. Like, one of the accounts up there speaks of a bear man. So like this short snouted, hair covered creature. And I wonder if those two separate witnesses have seen the same thing, this bear man type creature. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there, but yeah, I started doing some work on some cases called googly cases. So this baboon-shaped nose or a bear-shaped nose. And I didn't realise just how many there were. Winter Hill being one of the places where they're mentioned. But in fairness, there are also mentioned a lot of black dog reports up there as well. So I wanted to look tonight, if that's okay with you guys. I thought at first, when we were chatting earlier on the premiere, I realised I hadn't looked at all the bridges in the UK to see if they had strange reports around them. But first, I want to look at some of the creatures that are being reported with this red or orange eye shine. So we've got the Romford red-eyed beast. Now Romford is in, get it right? Havering, I'm not sure where that is. Is Romford Essex? I think it is, isn't it? So in the Essex area. Yeah, I've got it now. The Romford red-eyed creature. So the witness says, I live in Essex and I love being out in nature. In fact, my whole life to date has been entwined with Mother Earth and the Green Man. So this is a young lady in her teens, and like most of us back then who live in the rural areas, you'd get on the back of bikes or cars or whatever vehicle you could get, and you'd all go and meet in one area, Winter Hill and Riverton being one of these. And she's on the back of a lad's bike on Hull Lane. And she said, normally he's a really careful driver, never had a problem with him, and that night he just took off. And when he finally slowed down and she asked him what had gone on, he said that he'd seen a dark, hunched thing in the hedgerow, and it had red eyes, and it absolutely terrified him. And she said it's the areas around Lambourne End, in Abridge, and back then she said, oh God, it was a lot quieter back then, 35 years ago. And they're all staying, like our witness earlier, they're all staying in converted buses. And the case we talked about earlier was in Stroud, but this case obviously is not, it's in Lambourne End. And they hear someone on the farm lane slam on really hard, so it's like an accident, and they all run out to help. And there's a car that's literally slammed on its brakes in the farm lane, and it said that, let me get the description. It was, it's quite long, only a moment. It was a huge black shape that was as wide as two big blokes put together. And this shape stood about 7 feet tall. And the car had kind of picked it up in its car lights as it was driving down the lane. And she said, I found it interesting that 3 local folk that I knew also had experiences down there. I wonder how many others have too. Funnily enough, I'm in my 50s now, and I still don't like driving down Hull Lane. I go the long way around every time. Kind of understandable, that, isn't it? So let me see what other cases I've got. And check the chat while I'm here as well. If I've not said hi to anyone in chat, you'll have to excuse me. I've not got much typing in me tonight, but I can see you all. I can see you all chatting away. Right, this is an interesting one. This is quite recent. This one's coming to me quite recently. And it's from Poole in Dorset, 2018. Witness report. Hi, Deborah. I wrote to you as I'm a listener and I live in Dorset. And although we're not a major hotspot for strange things, I have had 2 strange encounters recently with something I can't explain. I work as a mechanical engineer, so my life is spent on the road mostly, which has me leaving home for work in the early hours of the morning. The first thing that took place, I can't explain, happened when I was in my hometown at around 4:45 a.m. It was a misty morning, late September 2018. I was driving along Herbert Avenue in Poole, Dorset, when I encountered yellow or orange eyeshine in the road. Now, this is not uncommon to see because you'll see foxes around, except this eyeshine was about 3 feet above the road and there was nearly a foot in length between the eyes that he could see. So he's saying they were like a foot apart. I slowed down rapidly to get a better look at whatever was crossing the road in front of me. And as I came around about 30 feet away, I expected to see a large dog on the road, but there was nothing. There was no body to those eyes. Ooh, yeah, and it goes on to explain another explanation. That sounds more paranormal, I would say, in rather than flesh and blood. But you know, I don't know everything. Let me pull this chat up so I can make sure I'm keeping up. Oh, Billy said an interesting thing in chat. He said, I once woke from a dream in which my face was transforming into a werewolf, like in American Werewolf in London. And it was a full moon night as well. Oh, that was a bit creepy. Yeah. The guys who were up on Winter Hill, Billy, they were convinced that what had growled at them and the eyeshine that they'd seen was a werewolf, definitely a werewolf. But they didn't get like facial features or anything because it's so dark, and these things seem to use that dark. How many times do we hear the expression, if it hadn't moved, I wouldn't have seen it? Or it was this silhouette that was darker than the dark of the night, and if it had just stayed completely still, we wouldn't know it were there, But then we wouldn't have all of these reports to tell you, would we? I like your handle, Shiesty Sorcerer. Hello. Yeah. But you know what I mean, don't you? If we did, people weren't reporting, if it was just one report from England, you could say, well, maybe, they've misidentified it. If it was just 20 reports, you could maybe say, car reflectors, those reflectors that you get on lampposts, you often get reflectors in woodlands and things like that. On Winter Hill, a road of that winder, that one of the farm owners pushes his Volvo out, doesn't he, Mark? So that that Volvo on Winter Hill, so you hit the reflector and you don't take the end of his car off, and you purposely, because it's so easy to see it when the light hits it. But when the light's out, that's when you want to be looking for eyeshine that's unusual, because there's nothing illuminating it, is it? And lots and lots and lots of times they talk about it being self-illuminated, as if the light's coming from behind the eye, and that's the opposite of our, Chris Darling said it earlier, that's the opposite of how an eye would work. And Chris has also mentioned the Mothman. I hadn't thought about it like that, Chris. If it was something really, really dark with just red eyes, I should maybe be looking into, because there are some Mothman reports in the UK. I know most people know the one of the Owlman of Mornan, but there are actually 2 reports of Owlmen in Cornwall, and I think there's a report of a vulture man in the Pentland Hills, and 2 other places. Kent was a bat beast. Actually, there's more. There was the monkey, what was he called? The monkey, bat-winged monkey bird. So it's like this young girl in a car and her parents are driving. And this thing basically comes at the back window, and it's got wings like a bat, but a face like a monkey. And a beak, like a bill, like a parrot would have. But, we could be throwing things up from dimensions and things like that. So, has anybody got an area they want to ask me about? I had to tell everyone, my grandson wants to do a live. So you never know. It might be next Saturday or the Saturday after. But he's decided. He tried to do it the other day, didn't he, Mark? But he just, his nerves went, poor soul. He was like, oh, Nan, I don't know how you do this. And then when I'd set it, took it all back down again. He went, let's do it now. And I was like, we can't. No, took it all down. But yeah, he wants to talk about the things that he saw in his bedroom when he was a kid. And I noticed that Kelly was talking about that earlier, that her child seen something with red eyes in the bedroom. And I would like to discuss that and how we normalise it for children seeing things in their bedroom. And if somebody had said to me, even if they'd have said, I don't know why you're seeing it, but other people see, that'd have been enough for me. I'd have been like, well, that's all right, I'm not a nutcase, other people see it as well. And I'd like to do that for kids. If I can do one thing while I'm on this earth, if I could change how witnesses of all ages, but more importantly, children who witness things, because not we, when I say we, I don't mean you guys, I mean society, instantly disbelieve them. If you're 15 and you see something in the park, they say you're on drugs, you were drinking, you were out with your friends, you know, you're just being ridiculous, teenage hysteria. There are more 15-year-old witnesses than people realise. There are 6-year-old witnesses to cryptid creatures, 3-year-old witnesses to entities in the bedroom. Children don't learn, they don't lie, they learn how to lie. Society teaches children how to lie. There's nothing as ruthless as a toddler, believe me, they'll tell you more truth than anyone. And it's by society saying, no, you're just being silly, or, you know, no, it's just this, or no, it's just that, or just put it away. That's how we shut down our abilities. So I think to say to a child, no, actually, I get it that you are seeing something, and I saw something when I was a kid in my room. I don't know why. I don't know why we see it. Or like, for me, I knew that my granny, my nan, used to see her dad. When anyone was going to die in the family, she'd see her dad at the end of the bed, and she'd say, "Oh, I seen my dad last night, so like my stomach's churning now. I know something bad's going to happen," and we'd all just intrinsically wait for it. Like she just kind of knew. It's like my mum. My mum always will say, no, something bad's coming. And she just kind of knows it, turns her stomach in knots. Like, I don't know. We were talking earlier as well where Dawn was saying that she'd been to a cemetery with her mum. And that they'd had activity. And I asked if she thought maybe it was because her and her mum were together and the energy was more. And she said, well, that's funny because me and my mum said that also. So Kelly's in. Kelly said her son was, he's been seeing things in his room since he was about 3. He saw the Hat Man come out of his wardrobe and cackle at him, oh, and then go into his sister's room. Kelly, tell me to shut up if you want, but have you had experience with UFO or paranormal experiences within your family? Whether that be you, I know it's you, mum and dad and grandparents. I'm just going to look for to answer me in the chat. Because she said after it went into his sister's room, she woke up with scratches on her legs. That's something that's feeding. That's something that's scaring those children to get as much fear out of them as it can. And what we need to teach them is how to take that control back. Because that thing's like a bully. You can shut it down completely for them. But it helps if you are with them when they shut it down. Because once they believe in it, that's it. That's all they need. Yeah? And that's something Zane wants to talk about, because we went into his room and we shut it down completely. And then he was just saying that over the years, he's my grandson, isn't he? So when people at school talk about UFOs and that, and they say they've seen them, he kind of takes the reports. So like his friends had heard some weird chattering when they were out, and another kid was on the way to school and he'd seen something in the sky. So I said, well, sit down with me on the live stream and we'll talk about it. We'll have one of our chats, but we'll do it on camera kind of thing. And I'd really like to do that, you know, it'd be great for him. So I'm not sure how to say your name. It looks like C. Blair, so I'm going to say it that way. It could be a poltergeist from negative X. It could be. It could very well be a poltergeist. And it could also be... Now, you said the kids were young. If we were talking teenagers, you can get a lot of poltergeist activity around teenagers because they don't understand what they do with their energy. And I'm not saying they're creating their own hauntings. I'm saying things are attracted to them really, really easily. But there's nothing as easy to feed from as a young child because they don't know how to fight it off. That's how it was for me. And it comes in your room and absolutely fucking terrifies you. And then the next morning when you tell someone, they say it was just a dream. Well, I had my last one 4 nights ago, and it wasn't just a dream, because I was awake when it happened, and that's how it is. It's like something has fed off me its entire life. Oh, thank you, Superluma. I will pop over to your channel and subscribe to you as well. If anyone wants to add the links to anything, just pop them in the chat. And if you can't, Jojo will pop them in for you. I'm a great believer in just share, share, share. So I can cover that question and speak to Kelly. Some people see energy in different ways, right? So some people will see maybe an orb or a light form of something like that. So I've got witnesses, adults and children, who see like a light shape within the bedroom. But for me, it was more something used to come out of the wall. So it was terrifying me the second it got near me. And you'd think like, why would something like do that to you as a child unless it wanted that fear? And then I'd learn tonight somehow, I don't know how, somehow I'd make it much smaller in my mind, and it wouldn't scare me as much. So it ramp up its appearance, so it was even scarier. And talking to my dad at the end, he said it was the same for him. You know, it's just not a conversation we ever had. And I'd like to do that, but for more kids. One of the reports I spoke about tonight was a lady from America, and she was in a bedroom. She was a young teen, and she saw something at the end of her bed that had red eyes and was dark. And she said it was almost raccoon-like. It was at the end of the baseboard of the bed, and she jumped over it to put the light on to make it disappear. So why do these things happen to children? So Kelly's saying that she was once throttled by something, like my body in a way. We need to shut that down. This is about willpower, and in the same way that a destructive partner can loom into you when you're ill or weak or going through something, there are beings and entities that will do the same. And they will ride you till you've got no energy left and you are a shell of your former self, you know. I've been there. And lots of people ask me, how do you stop it, Dev? Where can I go? Like, I don't know. There isn't a book. You read them all and take all of the advice and try it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not being futile. I'm saying it comes from a minute in here. It's the only way that you can stop it and shut it down. You know, it's just the only way. Super was saying I had a near-death experience as a child. I was 12 and I fell from the top of a tall tree. And as I fell, everything went in slow motion. And for a split second, I was watching myself fall. And the next thing, I woke up on the ground. Sheisty's asking, what is the live stream about? 8 o'clock on a Saturday, Shiesty, I collect reports from people all across the UK and worldwide who have paranormal or cryptid or unusual experiences. So 8 o'clock on a Saturday, I put a programme out, normally about 40 minutes, where there's a chat box and people will talk as that video plays. And now what I do is, after that, we have a live stream. So if people have listened to it and they've got any questions, they can ask me while I'm on screen here. And people just like to chat in the chat because, you know, it's you can talk about anything here. There's witnesses in there, there's researchers, there's investigators, and there's people like me who've been at it since 1982. And people write to me from everywhere. I mean, this week alone, I had a new report that's come in from Cannock. And that's Cannock Chase in England, which is quite a bit like your Skinwalker Ranch, but on a much smaller scale for us. Military defence land, moorland. There's a couple of cemeteries there, and one of the researchers from BBR was down there today at the Pie Green Tower, and he said it had a really off feeling to it, and I would agree. And it was said that during the war years, why can't I approve that? Joel, can you approve that for me? I can't do it. It's Arcane, he's trying to put his link up to his show. And I'm clicking my click, and it's not letting me. Yeah, I don't know how you're doing that. Joe, yeah, Joe shared it for him. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so the report being that in the war years, a female was impregnated by the military. And a bit like the Jersey Devil, she gave birth to what was described as a pig man, so a hybrid between a pig and a man. And over the years, people have reported seeing that creature in the area. Some people said that it was the story was actually put out by the military because there wasn't a hidden base there, and that was to put people off going there. I've been myself twice, and it does have a weird connotation to it, you know. Deborah, is there anywhere more like what the Mealing sisters seen in Cornwall? James, I don't know what the Mealing sister is. I don't know that case. I'm going to put my email into chat now. Anybody who wants to drop me an email, ask me any questions you want or report something. It's much easier for me to do it there than it is here, as you can imagine. As I'm obviously running the chat and then trying to see to, I've got my map on in case anyone asks me for a report in an area. I also, what I do is I collect sighting reports and I put them on a map. So I can't actually screen share. Wait one second. Let me see if I can. I'll be able to. So this here, this is my map. And I'm hoping you can see that okay. And I just, when a report comes in, I add it to that map with the description. So I know what's going on in each area at each time. So if somebody, say, gets in touch with me and says, I've seen a creature and I saw it in Macclesfield, I can get my map out, go and have a look. What did the creature look like? So it's a big cat or possibly, UFO sighting, and I can look and say, right, we've had UFO sightings in that area since the 1930s, and these are those cases. I get the case from them first, obviously, so I don't influence them in any way. James has asked me about... I will do it in a second, James. I just need to pop up. Right, so the Almond of Cornwall, I get you. Is there anywhere... there is. There's a secondary report of an Almond in Cornwall. Let me pull it up. There we go. So this is from Matt Thompson, and it says, there's an early source from 1926 which describes two boys being attacked by a large bird some 15 or so miles down the coast from Morecambe. The source is quite hard to find online, but the Cornish folklorist Andy Norfolk was able to find it for me. And the boy said, while proceeding along a road on Sunday evening midway between Mount Hawke and Porth Owen, two lads had their attention drawn to something fluttering on top of the mine burrow. The younger boy ascended the burrow and to see what it was, and he said it was a large bird of some kind that was apparently dead. And they started to look at it, and the creature attacked the boy. And the boy ran back to his brother, who managed to throw his coat over this bird to stop it from attacking them. And they described it really. It says the bird, however, escaped from the coat and attacked the older boy, who defended himself with a stick and eventually killed it. The bird measured 6'3". It had a powerful pointed beak, which was 6 inches in length, full webbed feet, green and yellow, and a duck-shaped body. That's on the get me right, east coast, and Marnan's on the north coast. Get it right in a minute. That was on the west coast. The Marnan one's on the east coast. I can't do east west, as Mark's laughing in the background there because I'm useless at it. When we're driving, I go that way. Just go that way. It's my Ehrlich syndrome. I can't do it. I can't do... I'm no good with directions and numbers. I just can't do them. Let me get my chat back up and I shall answer James's question. Yeah, Jonathan Downs has a lot of information on the Alman. Hi Deb, hi Ashtar, how you doing? I've not seen you for a while. Fiona's saying, I stayed in a hotel where the owner said nearly every room had a ghost. I was scratched on my ankle, almost like a cat scratched. I get a lot of reports where people report being scratched. I remember Amy telling me that she had 3 down her back, and she was a college student. I wonder if, let's just theorise, right? Let's surmise, let's just throw it out there. What if, and I actually do believe this, that there are beings or entities out there that will appear as your absolute worst nightmare to scare you the most, or will appear as something attractive to you, depending on what its agenda is. So say it wants your fear, it's going to come as something awful, isn't it? Like Hat Man. So what children see Hat Man. Or they'll see Slender Man. Or like me, something will crawl out the wall. Or they'll see something on the ceiling that terrifies them. Or something will morph into their room. Whatever that thing can do to make it look the scariest is what it's trying to achieve. And then we look at the succubus attack. So a very attractive female. Well, if she wants to, if depending if she wants a male energy, that's how she's going to take it, and vice versa in the other sense. And then we've got these beings that just seem to wander for no rhyme or reason. That will just kind of stay in one area and soak up all of the negative energy. And I think there are a number of those at Cannock Chase and other areas like Cannock Chase. And Kelly's saying, you mentioned recently, Deb, that there are 2 reports here in Southampton. I know the Woodmill Golf Course one. Let me have a look for you. We also need to look at the land in the area that these experiences are taking place on. So say our witness is sensitive to energy, whether they know that or not. They could be the catalyst, yeah? And that catalyst, I mean that as, when they walk into an area, 99 other people could have walked into that room, that home, that area, that castle, whatever it is, and they're the person that has the experience. So it could be something about them that's keep that in, that's catalysed it. You're going to be really glad that you asked me, Kelly, because Tricky Dicker is a guy I know well, and he will often pop into the chat sometimes. He saw what he described 10 years ago at Swanwick train station as a really tall man who had like a space cupboard, and he was running at him at speed, and it kind of lines up with the one at the golf course. But you've also got, not actually, if you just pop over the river, because I'm obsessed with rivers, aren't I? Let me pull it up. I'll get your name at river, make it easy. Where the estuary is there, you pop over that onto the other side, and we go to... Don't go slow on me now, I'm live. Let's go to just on the edge of the New Forest, so like Ashurst area. You've got something there that's described as 8 feet tall, a shadow figure, really up close. I quickly looked behind me, and the figure did not look like anyone from the team. I had to double check. So you've got a paranormal team who are out and about, and they were followed around the woodlands by this, what they described as a shadow being, 7 foot tall shadow being. So because you're near the New Forest, there are a lot of reports in that area, so I couldn't do them all on one live stream for you. But what we'll do is, like I did with Kato, we can look and see if it's you that is the attractant. And don't take that in the wrong way. When I speak to people, and I can't get a few pieces, and I ask them about family, and I'll ask them about previous reports and things like that, you start to build up a little bit of a history for them. So in Casey's case, I was able to say, most of your experiences happen when you're on ancient land. So maybe you're picking up on ancient energy. Deb Singleton, most of her experiences happen when she's driving or incredibly relaxed, and that's the same for all of us. We're using a different part of our brain. Ashtar said, hey Deb, I just wondered if you would like to show us the area where you had your encounter, please, and what it was you encountered. Yeah, I don't mind. Hello. I should go live there. That's what I should do. I should go down there in the day so you can see it. Probably about the same time that I saw it. And just say, this is what I can't get in, because they're building something with it now. The old mansion's going to be something now, so it's all like chain link fence. You can't get in, but I can stand there and show you where I was. That's not a problem. I've been back a few times with Mark. I'm just trying to make it as big as I can so you can see it. I don't think it's going to come across very well on here. The area is actually called Bewle Hill. It was an old ancient burial ground for plague victims back in the day, Summerhill Mansion. The first mansion that went on there burnt down. It was a wooden building. And then obviously this mansion was built on top of it. And it was a scenic area. People used to go there on holiday. In like the 1910, 1920s, it was a holiday destination. That's where people went. And then this I think it's probably a Georgian or Edwardian mansion, I don't know, was used for the war. So it was like a war hospital, and it had like sirens on top of it and things. It's been many things in its time. It was also a mining museum and things like that, because mining's a big thing in the area. So for me, 1982, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this. Yeah. See, it's just a random map to you, isn't it? What I'll do is I'll go to the area. Mark will take me, won't you? Yeah. Mark, could you pass me that drink? I can't get me water. My hands are killing. Basically, what you've got is, can you imagine a big country estate where you've got the gentry live, and you'd have like big gates where they'd drive the cabs would come in with the horses, and you've got like stable buildings, and a big orangery that had plants from all over the world, and a butterfly area, and just amazing, absolutely amazing. A lake that you could boat on and things like that. And then it's just gone to wreck and ruin. So all of these beautiful manicured gardens where you had like rhododendrons and, I can't close it. I can't do it. Keep an eye on it, but it don't fall over. So you've got that, and it's all gone to wreck and ruin. There's nothing. The council have just gone like, oh, we're not spending any more money on that. Just leave it. So my school was Bewley, and it looked like something out of Harry Potter. So big Gothic building. And what you've got there, you've got these big mill owners really who built these homes right in the top of the hill, and then all us poor folk lived down at the bottom. And as kids, that's where we'd go. We'd go to the park, and you could do what you wanted. And there was a lot of stuff on back then, wasn't there? They'd open a thing in the summer, so they'd open these doors, and they'd give you like hula hoops and putting golf, weren't they, Mark, and balls and all kinds of stuff. It was a really good place to go. Equipment. Yeah, like sports equipment and stuff, so you could have fun, and like there was a soccer field there and all that. It was just really good place to be when you were a kid, climbing trees and the lot. And the mansion itself, because it fascinated me. I always felt drawn to it. I was 15. I should have been going in school that afternoon. We'd done our mocks. And I was quite clever at school, so I'd done a few of my exams early, and I was bored. I was absolutely bored, and I just thought, I'm not going in. And I was this Victorian entryway, looked like something out Jack the Ripper in London. No lights on it or anything like that, but it was daytime, and we called the dog entry, and none of us know why it was called that. And I met my mate there, and I said, I'm not going in. And she was like, no, I'm not going in either. So I was like, well, let's go in the park. So that's what we did. We went in the park. They were right at the side of this old mansion. So, the rhododendron must have been 30 foot tall, and it's got like ivy in it and brambles. And when you were in it, you could see outside. So if any teachers were mooching about, you'd just be dead quiet and they'd walk past you. But from outside, you couldn't see in. So we're in there having a fag. Right, lay down on the floor, pair of us. She's there, I'm here, and we're talking. And I don't know why I went like that. And as I went like that, something moved in the bushes, and it just looked at me, and I looked at it, and I just screamed. I just screamed my head off. Grabbed hold of her, pushed her down to the ground so it'd get her, and I was up on my feet and I was running. And I ran as I don't remember anything. I remember looking back, and he just melted back in like that, and he was gone, like Jack of the Green, gone. And that's how he came out like that. And he looked like a man and an ape pushed together somehow, like Heidelbergensis or Heidelbergaster, like Neanderthal, but far hairier. Hair everywhere, not in his face, but hair everywhere. He had like really big muscles here and muscles here, big brow ridge, normal teeth, not canines or anything like that, normal lips like ours. His nose is just flat, like. But I only saw him from here, so I didn't see any of his body. I didn't see hands or anything like that. You could see hair through his like skin through his hair, but his hair was probably like about that long. So I don't remember seeing his ears. So it must have covered his ears because I don't remember them. But we're talking this amount of time, right? Ready? She's on the floor and I'm running. And the next thing I remember is coming to next to the motorway or the freeway or whatever you want to call it. Because I knew that there was a place there called the Dell, and the grass and the bushes grow really, really high. It isn't looked after. And as I stopped, I realised that I'd have to run through there, and I just thought, no, they'll be in there. They'll be in there. And I never tied that together with the scary things I saw when I was a kid. Never put the things together, ever, until probably the last 10 years. I had them as completely separate, right? Completely and utterly separate. Because I thought I was looking for an ape or a monkey. So, nobody else has ever seen one in that area. Well, unfortunately, yes, they have. Because I've been researching it that long now. There was an old guy, one of the Ardishes. He worked for the Parks and Gardens in the late 50s. He said 58. And he saw what he described as a monkey drinking from the boating lake down there. And he said it was cupping water to its thing and it was completely covered in hair. 1970s, you've got a number of men who work in the area, and back then it was rough, like docks, mill, pit. It was a rough town. So if you'd got takings of any, you wouldn't want to be walking home with them on your own. So they'd all meet in one area and all go on together, right? It was an area where they had like they were called the Scuttlers, these famous. What Peaky Blinders is based on now actually was the Scuttlers, and that came from my hometown. And one of the guys decided that he needed a pee, a gypsy's kiss. So he ran into the park. So opposite where I've seen it is the golf course. It used to be, like I said, it was a big mansion for posh people, so it was a big posh golf course. And he said on that golf course, it was a naked, hairy man that was running around trying to catch a fox, believe it or not. Nobody ever believed him. And that man, his nephew, went on to study Bigfoot all over the world because of that report, because he said I needed to prove that my uncle wasn't crackers. And there I am one day and I'm listening to the radio and then I hear your voice on it saying I'm from Salford and I'm looking for somebody or anybody that's been out there that's seen that gorilla man in the park. I never called him the gorilla man. To me, he was the man-ape. My friend who was with, she called him the gorilla man. But for me, he was a man and an ape combined. So then 2 years after me, you got a woman called Brenda, 1984. It was warm for me. It wasn't for her. It was about 5:30 in the afternoon. So in winter time, January in the northwest, it started then anyway. And she said the lights on outside what we call a stable block, and standing there is what she calls a chimp man. And she describes him as completely hair covered, but you could see skin through his hair like a chimpanzee. He had a pot belly. He had a bit of a hunchback, and he was just slack-mouthed, looking at her like. So, and she said, at first I thought it was a pervert and he was going to do something to me. And then I realised that he was some kind of like chimp man thing. And he just stood there at the stable block and just looked at her and didn't do anything else. She just grabbed the dog and got out of there as quick as she could. In that area, Chris, there are, or used to be, 5 golf courses. You've got the one on Bewley Hill, the one at Light Oaks, then you've got the Ellesmere, the one in Swinton, and the one at the back of Pickles. Yeah, so 5 golf courses. Big thing at the time there. Quite a lot of golf courses. Mark actually did it for me. Works out how you'd get from where we live now to my original site. And you just use the old train lines and the golf courses and you can get there easily. Unfortunately, Chris, 2 of those golf courses have been sold and they put in 5,000 houses on them. The one at the park is being made into apartments. So that will just become a parking lot for the cars. What happened to my friend? We stayed friends actually. We didn't at the time. Obviously we had to go back to school the next day, and I think I was mean, so I'm just going to be dead honest to you. Not only did I push her to the floor and run away, I was mean to her the next day, like it was her fault that I'd seen it or this event had happened. I think it was just a bit of victim blame. I don't know why I did it. I have no explanation for it, but I feel awful about it. And that's why I never lie and don't not bring it up, because that's what's happened. She was like me, she was scared, but we just didn't want to talk about it. It just made it too real. And then What was I when I had Jodie? 18. I was married at 18, and by the time I was at 19, I was a mum. And she was the same. She had a kid. We grew up in the same time together, so we'd bump into each other all the time. And then we ended up, we both lived on the same housing estate. I don't live in that area anymore, and I think she still does. The last I heard of her, she still lived down there. We never really. She had no interest in it whatsoever. She wanted to bury it and just not talk about it. And I was the other way. I wanted to know what he was, how I saw him, what could he have been? Was he a time slip? Was he an hallucination of some kind? Is he some relic hominid? Is he a wild human? I know what he wasn't. He wasn't a homeless man. He wasn't a boy in a suit or a man in a suit. He was massive. He was thickly muscled and massive, and he looked as flesh and blood as you and I do. But that doesn't mean that's what he was. And then there were other reports after that. There isn't just those reports. There's the golf course again, Chris. We've got 4 men who were out. I think it was Father's Day, so they've all got new. It was either Father's Day or Boxing Day, and they were out because they had new golf kit. And all 4 of them see what they at first think is somebody who's going to rob them, moving around in the rough on the edge of Ellesmere Golf Course. So not the one in the park, not the next one, but the next one. So the 3rd one in the loop. And they're watching this dark thing move about. So they think it's some guy in a hoodie that's going to come and nick all the brand new gear, because it's quite a posh golf course. It costs a lot of money to play there. That's why I've never been. And so, because there were 4 of them, they were like, right, let's just front him out. Let's just all walk towards him, and he'll leg it, won't he? And as they went to walk towards him, it stood up. And he said, it stood up. And it was a big, hairy thing that was looking at them. And it was gesticulating with its hands. It was like telling them to go back, almost like, no, don't come near me kind of thing. And they still stepped towards it. And as they did that, there was a scream came from over the left shoulder. And they looked across the left shoulder, and when they looked back, it had gone. The thing had like completely gone. And there was a further one. If we follow the river, the Irwell River, there's a case in 2012 where a guy out mountain biking saw what he described as a reddish coloured creature in a gorilla stance that looked at him. We'd stopped because something was wrong with his bike, and as he'd looked into the greenery, there it was. And that's all part of the same corridor, so it could possibly be that we're all seeing the same thing. And there were a couple of other reports, and the last report was 2021 when we had the really bad snow, so only 3 years ago. But nothing since then, obviously. But that's how I started. That's what got me started. Yeah, Tanya's mentioned Fred. I'll talk about Fred in a minute if you don't mind. So yeah, that's how it started for me, and I had to know what he was. That was the only way. It terrified me. I obviously not at 15, but years later, it affected my mental health. Well, I think it did affect my mental health, if I'm honest, at 15. Having to go back to school the next day for another 6 months, knowing that he was in that park somewhere. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. I used to come up with every excuse in the world not to go. Yeah. I told my parents. I went in and told my parents. I was absolutely hysterical when I got in. My mum were there. My dad were at work. And I don't think back then my mum really believed me. I think she thought I was just being, because let's be honest, I was a bit of a dramatic kid. So she was probably like, our Deb's just seen what our Deb's like, she's probably just seen like a homeless man. And because he used to say our Deb is away with the fairies, because I used to see things, didn't I, when I was a kid. But my dad believed me. I know my dad believed me, because he said he knew when I was lying, and I weren't lying. I was terrified. And he told me years and years and years after that when he was in his 20s, he saw like a wolf in that area, a yellow-eyed wolf. And it absolutely terrified him. And where he saw it was the dog entry. And like I say, none of us know what that dog entry is. And then I just researched Bigfoot for a long time. For about 25 years, that's all I did. I researched Bigfoot and cryptid. So I wouldn't take a report unless it had an ape-like feature or a human-like feature. Like the Grey Man of Ben McDo or the Seven Oaks creature. It had to have some form of, would fit in with what I'd seen for me to investigate it. And then I realised about 15 years ago, a lot of reports that were coming in were talking about canine creatures. How old am I? Now I am actually, in a few days' time, I'm 57. So I was 15 at the time, and I'm about to be 57. I'm very old, been around a long time. But yeah, so I realised that people were making reports that were more canine in appearance. So they were talking about hairs on top of head and like a snouted creature with fangs. So like what I saw didn't have canine teeth or anything. But these creatures were talking about, these witnesses were talking about those kind of creatures. So and there wasn't really anybody taking those reports. So I thought, well, I wasn't believed. And they're not being believed. And at the time, I'm from Lancashire in the UK, so on the northwest coast. I am closer to Scotland and Ireland than I am to London. So I live just out an area called the Pennine Way. So like our Appalachian Trail, we have a little mini Appalachian Trail that goes up through the UK, and I live just off the west of that. Really outdoorsy, always been outdoorsy. Like to fish when I was a kid and ride horses and build bibbies and sleep out and do all the things that kids did back then. Yeah. And we still kind of live in the same area, don't we? We still kind of do the same things, even though we're in our 50s. And it was hard growing up in a town where you dig your heels in and say, no, I did see a monster. I don't care what you think about me. I did see a monster. I don't care if you think I'm loopy, but I did. I know what I saw that day. I did. I didn't ask to see you. I didn't go out that day and thought, I know, I'm going to go and see something so terrifying now it's going to affect me for the next 40 years of my life. I never took my kids camping. I was that frightened of going into the woods in the dark. I never took my children camping, and that's appalling. But that was fair. So that's when the parapsychology stuff started, didn't it? I started sitting down with witnesses, and I would noticing patterns. So that people would be coming forward to me, and I'd realise that there were other people in their area who'd seen something as well. And I was like, I need to get these people together so they know that they're not on their own, So like Stanley in the northeast of England, there's 8 witnesses there. And each one of those 8 witnesses didn't know about each other. And then Cannock Chase, there's 33 active cases in Cannock Chase. So putting some of those witnesses together is the best thing to do. So then I started going out and just rocking up in fields with my friend, bit of camping gear, and I'd say like, right, I'm going to be in Cannock Chase today. I'll be there about 11, 12 o'clock. You've got to come out for a brew. And I did that for a long time. COVID shut that down, but we're going to start that up again this year. Last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of TV work and stuff like that, finding witnesses for television programs, or like pitching television programs or television ideas, and coming up with scripts or rewriting scripts. I've done a lot of that. But in the background, the stuff that you don't see, you see the end result on YouTube. Some witnesses come to me and they are absolutely suffering with trauma. So like me, they're almost PTSD, and I understand what that's like. So I will talk to them and go through their experiences with them and kind of normalise it, and then show them that for Kelly, if we look at Kelly now, she's had a series of awful events and she has survived every single one of them and still got up the next morning and seen to her kids. That's strength. And we don't celebrate that. We don't celebrate that enough. We concentrate on the fear. We don't concentrate on the fact that she's managed to get her head out of that bed, get her clothes on, see to her children, get them to school, and carry on the rest of the day knowing what it's going to be like at night when she goes to bed. We don't talk about that. So if you're new to my channel, that's what I'm about. So I would talk to Kelly or Katie or Simon or Mark and get their story. If they're happy for me to interview them audibly, I will do that. I'll tape it and you'll hear that. Or if they want to report something to me and they want to be anonymous. I was anonymous for a very long time. I just read it out. I say, right, tonight I've got a new case that's come in. This is how it's happened. So we'll talk about Fred's, and that if I talk about Fred's case, it'll give you a big round thing on what I do. Right. 20 years ago, when I'm looking for other people who are looking for other people, there's a guy out there in Bedfordshire, and I don't know it. And he's been having similar experiences since he was a kid, and he's doing everything he can to find out what's going on there. And as we know, serendipity is an amazing thing. And I met him. I met him a very, very long time ago. And he was Fred's carer. And at the time, I think he'd been, long ago, he's been there more than 20 years, so it was decades ago, right? And he's mapping what's going on around that farm and what's going on in the Three Counties area. Because like me, he wants to know what it was that he experienced when he was younger. And Fred didn't see anything. But he was able to keep it from him, so he wasn't frightened. So a lot of people have had a bit of stick about Fred's case, to be honest. Some people have said, can't believe you scared him like that. No, we didn't. We kept everything from him. He knew nothing about it at any point, nothing. So it was private conversations that went on between me and Glassy, right? And Glassy is his carer. And Glassy was also researching his own experiences, right? So he didn't want all this to be going on around the farm. And it wasn't, there are some things I can't go into because it's strictly confidential between me and the witness. But I got to know Fred through Steve, and we chat on the phone from every now and again, or he'd send me what he calls his DVD, so that'd be like a video of him talking. And it was lovely. I'd lost my dad, and I got really close to him, and we had some really good chats. And he got poorly. He got really poorly towards the end, and he was very old. And I was going, it was September the 8th. What was I going into hospital for? Was it my hand?
It wasn't your thingy, was it?
I can't remember. Oh, well, I was having a gastric tube down my throat on the 8th. So as all of that's getting ready to happen, my phone goes, and I realise I've got an urgent text from Glassy, and he wouldn't do that. He's never done that to me before. And I opened it, and he said to me, Debbie, I need your help. Fred's seen something last night, and he's absolutely hysterical. And Steve did exactly the right thing to do. He contacted Fred's GP. Because I did not, and most people think I did, leave a poorly man out there without GP assistance. The first thing we did was get the doctor involved, right? Because you've got to, because of his age, and he was absolutely terrified, and he went to hospital. But what had happened was, he, for the first time, had been moved downstairs. So I'll give you a quick rundown of it. He's in bed, it's the middle of the night, the poor old chap, and something taps on his window. And as he looks at the window, it's a dog-like creature. It's got like tipped ears, so ears up, but with a bit of a tip to them. Definite canine fangs. And he described it as a werewolf. That's what he said to me. And he was absolutely hysterical. And what he wanted to know was it going to come back for him and take him? And I said to him, no. And I promise you that 150%, because if it was going to do that, you'd already be gone. You know? Why did it show itself to you? So I wanted to ask him a number of questions. So I said to him, don't tell me anything else till I've asked you these questions. One of the questions was he of Irish descent? And he said, yeah, both of his parents were Irish. And there is an old Irish legend that in times of sickness and ill health, then the death wolf will visit, meaning it's come to walk you home. So you've not got long left. You're at that stage of your life. I asked him what had changed that night, other than any different. Why he'd not seen it before, and he said that was the first time he'd had his bed downstairs. But all the time he's lived there, he's had a bedroom upstairs, but he got too much up and down the stairs, so he brought his bed down that day. So that was the first time. And one important thing I'd forgotten, he said the creature looked surprised that Fred could see him. Like almost, oh God, he's seen me. So we think it's been around for quite a while. I asked him if there was any area on the property that had really negative connotation, and he said there was an empty home, and the person that had it was a really bad man, and there was all satanic drawings in there and all of this, and it had been laying and abandoned for quite a while. And that all kind of made sense to me. And I asked him if he'd been thinking about death, about passing over. And he said, yeah. And I said, is something worrying you? Because we all have a worry when we die. We worry that something we've done throughout life is going to send us to hell, because that's what we get told, isn't it, from being a tiny child? But I said it doesn't work like that. If you've done something in your life and you genuinely regret it enough that it's still with you at the end of your life, that's enough. You've done your penance, that's it. And I was able to calm him down, and that's what we did. And then, so that was September, and then first week of January, just as we went into the new year, Fred passed away at home, quite happily in his bed, where he wanted to be when he went. And that's the story of Fred. So when Glassy's ready, he's over the years, Fred has so many stories for us, so many stories, paranormal and otherwise. I could just sit and listen to him all day. Sure, I'm pretty sure you're my aunt. Hey, I might be, You have to pop your name. Someone's just put in the chat, I'm quite sure my aunt, you're my aunt. Well, okay, you need to pop your name in there and I'll tell you if I am or I'm not. But people mix me up with the Axwell girls. I'm only an Axwell through marriage, but they all blonde and look a bit like me. I'm Mark's wife, not his sister, and that gets mixed up a lot, that, doesn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got into trouble a few times. But yeah, that's the story of Fred. So Glassy said he's going to sit down and he's going to share some of those recordings that he did with Fred, because some of them are just mind-blowing. They're absolutely mind-blowing. And it's one of the reasons that we do this, what we do. Because if we hadn't recorded all of that, Fred's story would have been obsolete and it would have been forgotten about. And it was an incredibly important part of his life. But all it was only a moment in time. It was part of his life, you know, as death is part of your life. And this is what happened to him as he was passing. And I think, like we said before about normalising it for children, we have to normalise it for adults. Sometimes when we are at our weakest moments, we are at the closest we ever get to being spiritually open. We're putting our thoughts out there, aren't we, about what happens afterwards, what goes beyond. And if you work in the NHS, or you will know of stories where people have spoken of seeing an actual ancestor or something at the side of the bed when a person's been passing away. You know, I think it's quite normal. I know when my grandmother was passing, there was one of the nurses there was from the Philippines, and he was a comfort to me mum, because he said to me, Mum, look, her ancestors have come from her now. You can see how settled she is. And it was nice to know. 1 second. I've got quite a few questions popping up, so I'm just going to have to scroll back a little bit. What time are you? 10. Right. I haven't heard from the Scottish Farmer. I'm still waiting on the Freedom of Information Act coming back, because I've applied to them for any photographs taken at the time, any mention of it in police reports, and any mention of what they call the beast from the east. Now, not 74 drunken people said that's a star. No, not in 1970 it wasn't. The beast from the east was known as a black panther that was in that area. So I have applied under Freedom of Information for that information. I want to know, the police were at the farm that day, so there's got to be a police report, hasn't there? There's just got to be. So whether they'll let us know that or not, they could send me a piece of paper with everything redacted. They've done that before. But all I can do is ask and try. And if I get knocked back, I'll ask for different search words, because I kind of know what I'm doing with Freedom of Information now. I didn't used to know. Tanya, you might be interested to know, right? Between 2008 and 2018, they did a Freedom of Information request for the Staffordshire area, simply because we've heard so much about Cannock Chase and the werewolf reports down there. They wanted to know, Neil Coty did it, they wanted to know how many reports of a werewolf or anything like that had been said to the police. And there were 12 people in that 10-year period had come forward and said, actually, I made a report to the police officer. There were over 600 and something beasts, over 15,000 cat reports in a 10-year period, and over 400 wolf reports, so down on all fours, but a wolf running. And that's just one county in the UK in 110 period. So I know, like Debbie's working a case in Moncton where the lady was supposedly killed by foxes who left her car and was found in the thing. So I'm going to suggest to Deb that we apply under the Freedom of Information Act, because the police were called. And when the police turned up at the car, she wasn't there. So we know that there's got to be a logged incident of that. So we can apply under Freedom of Information to try and get some more details of that. And believe me, Deborah's dug. She's tried everything she can to find out. We've done every search known to man. And it's one of those cases that's been classed as no suspicious circumstances. Oh, James, thank you. That's really kind of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that greatly. 1 week, if you want, I will do some of the cases in the UK, what they class as not in the public interest or of no suspicious circumstances. And some of those cases are where the police have found 1 foot, 1 human foot, inside a sock, inside a training shoe, And that case has been classed and closed by the coroner as no suspicious circumstances at all. How do you know? There's no... Where's the rest of the body? He could have been shot, strangled, stabbed, mutilated, beaten to death, drowned. No. 1 foot from the calf in an actual, I think it was a Dunlop trainer. No suspicious circumstances whatsoever. So you think, that's rare. You're not going to find that happening nowhere. Where I live, they found a woman's foot in the river. 2018, she went missing. Christmas 2018, vanished. Christmas 2019, they find just a lower leg in the canal, in the river. Once again, no suspicious circumstances whatsoever, folks. 2020, they found the rest of her body parts 20 mile upstream. Still, no suspicious circumstances. There was a girl, Box Hill is an area where there are lots and lots and lots of cryptid reports and UFO reports. The young girl got a taxi to Box Hill, got out of the taxi, middle of nowhere, never seen again. No suspicious circumstances. She'd probably just done away with herself. Why hadn't you found her clothes or a backpack? There's a case here in Mark's Friend. Walked out the door, didn't her, with a suitcase. Walked away. 5 years, nothing. No suspicious circumstances at all. We found him in the woodland. Where's the suitcase? He didn't have a suitcase with him, but he did on CCTV because you see him walking away with it. So if he's took himself to the woodland instantly, that you searched at the time and found nothing, and 5 years later you find him, but there's no suitcase with him, that's a suspicious circumstance. So why it got ticked as no suspicious circumstances whatsoever? Yeah, the British public are British government are really good at doing that. We've talked about the dipper cases, haven't we, in Yorkshire? If you live in a major town in the UK, just go and have a Google at how many men are pulled from your waterways, whether that be the canals or the river systems. Yeah. What's a Dunlop? A Dunlop's a kind of like a tennis shoe or a sneaker, as you'd say in America. So it's like a white tennis shoe with a green thing, just Dunlop green flash they were called. It was like an early Nike here in the UK. But quite distinctive. So it's like quite like like a van. A van shoe's really distinctive. Oh, thank you, Tanya. That's really kind of you. It's just like Adidas or Nike. It's just the name of a trainer. Dunlop was really big in. They were tennis. They were the sponsors of lots of Wimbledon tennis, so that's why it was called Green Flash. They're retro good again, Jimmy. If you got them, you can get an absolute fortune for them. Us kids, we wouldn't have them on our feet because they were the cheapest trainers known to man. But now, ironically, you got to pay a good couple of £100 for them. Yeah, I remember begging for a pair of Adidas kit. I had to bed all year. I don't want anything else for Christmas. I just want a pair of Adidas kit. And like, I can still remember the smell of that box when I opened it. Because back when I was a kid, your parents didn't have money for stuff like that. They just didn't, And my poor mum and dads, they've got me as a child. And I've got one sister older and one sister younger than me. And I am the typical middle child. I was the one who was the problem. But I was also the one who'd dig my heels in. So like, my dad would say, oh, Debbie'd walk out of a tsunami with these two under her arms. Like, that's kind of like my dad's boy. So I did a lot of fishing and boxing and boy stuff, football and things like that when I was growing up. So people do say I have a unique life, and I never really realised it before until I started YouTube and I started talking about my past and that. And I'd be like, actually, yeah, I do have a bit of a weird life, don't I? Your life's just your life, isn't it? So for people who don't know me, I'm a grandmother. I've got 2 daughters of my own, grown. I've got 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl. I write books. I've done 2 books, and I see that Chris asked me. I've got 4 books written, Chris, sat there, ready to go. And because I'm going to be honest, since I went to Benford, I've been ill. I went to Yorkshire to Bempton, and I've been ill. I've been really, really ill, and they discovered that I've got Addison's disease. And from getting that diagnosis, I've got much better, much better. And then I had a car accident and ended up with like really bad whiplash-induced vertigo, as they called it. But that's getting better now. I'm learning to live with it. So I'm back on the up. So I stopped for about 12 months. Didn't do any live streams for about 12 months. Just having dental surgery at the moment. So when you see me next week, I'll be lovely. I'll have my new railings in and everything. But I'm not a vain woman. Nobody tunes in to look at my face. And I said to Mark, I can't go 6 weeks because I know that lots of them in this chat love talking to people. So like Joe had said, Debbie, I'd just put you on silent, yeah. So I'll even sit here some nights and I'll just work on my map and I'll let the chat open so people can talk to each other about this subject or about any other subject, you know. And lots of problems are things that people come across, obstacles. I think I've been through them as well. So like Fiona said, she very rarely sleeps. Roy, don't knock the mic over, mate. You come on this side. I rarely sleep, but I have recently. I'm doing a bit better at it. I'm managing to get more. She's fine. He's trying to get on camera. I'm managing to get a bit more sleep, so I am feeling a bit better. I think sometimes people don't know you as a person, do they? Because they hear the podcast and they hear the voice, but there's no face to put that to, is there? And sometimes I'll have a guest on. I'll be doing that more. So I'll bring a guest on and I'll bring a witness on so they can chat with you. And I think we should have one where I just throw the link in the chat. So I'll just throw the link in there. And if anyone wants to come on and join me, whether that be on camera or off, then they can do that. We've got a number, some TV projects that are coming up that are quite exciting. And obviously, I can't give too much away on them because I'd get done and I won't get paid. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy them going forward. I don't know. I'm in a place now where I'm much better off. I feel much better, and I can fit the live streams in. And it's nice seeing people getting on and just chatting away to each other and talking. But I'm going to give it 5. I'll take it till 1:15, and then I'm going to go and have a cup of tea and my nighttime meds. So if anyone's got any questions for me, I won't get to them until tomorrow. I don't do anything after the live streams. It absolutely saps my energy, believe it or not. So what I'll do now is I'll get my PJs on and I'll go and get in my bed. And I'll go and see who else is having a live stream, and I'll go and join in there because I like listening to them. Where can I purchase escargot? Escargot.com, I would imagine, wouldn't you, Mark? There you go. That's an easy one for me to solve. Or Ocado, they probably have it, but I'm not middle class, so I wouldn't know. I get people from all over the world that pop into my chat. I do get the odd troll, but we all do. You know, that's part of being online, isn't it? And I just seen Jojo just time someone out for 86,000 seconds. Nice one, Joe. But yeah, mostly my chats are really nice to be in. I don't allow bullying. I don't allow any of that to go in the chat. I just say, oh, we're all adults, aren't we? I'm quite sure we can navigate YouTube without having to get any referees in. And then I have my wonderful Jojo and Brian. They're my mods. But yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up now, and I'm going to get comfy for the night maybe and chill out with him for a bit. Yeah. So I will be back on... I might do a live on Tuesday, I'll have to see. Depending, if I feel well, then I might do one. But if not, I'll be back on Saturday night. I'll be back at 8. And I have got a special for you, the Gugwoo or the Gugwos. So reports in the UK where people have mentioned a creature with a snout like a baboon. So down on all fours, really mean looking, aggressive type of creature. So we're looking at some of those accounts, and there's some new accounts in there that you'll enjoy. And then at 9 o'clock we'll do the live again, and I'll just keep going for as long as I can. But I would like to thank each and every one of you. I really appreciate that you take the time out each week to join us. And for anyone that's new, we don't expect donations. When we get them, we're absolutely grateful for them. Give me a share, give me a like, write a comment. That does a lot for the channel if you can do that, you know, because it makes YouTube realise that people are interested in what I do, and that's the only way you can do it now with the algorithms. But to each and every one of you, whether you're a newcomer or one of my regular listeners, my heart goes out to all of you. You feel like family to me. Roy, you're going to come and say goodnight? Let's get that camera out. There we go. Come here so they can see you. Right. There he is. Look, you're on camera. No, you're supposed to be on camera, look. No, he's just like, right, Mum, come on, it's time. But I shall see you. He's on my laptop. Right, get your leg out of there, you know. Right, I'll see you all next week. Good night, everyone.